Happy 2025! Hi, I'm Cece. I'm a registered dietitian and I'm here today to offer some nutrition tips as well as a healthy recipe to start your 2025 off right. So with the New Year's comes New Year's resolutions. Often these resolutions are forfeited by February or maybe even in January. If you're looking to make nutritional changes to your lifestyle in this upcoming year, I recommend avoiding fad diets. Fad diets are proven through research to not be effective and to ultimately lead to weight gain. So some things you might want to look out for if you're not sure if something's a fad diet are these 7 tips. The first tip is if it promises rapid weight loss. Anything that promises rapid weight loss is not going to be sustainable. Our goal with weight loss should always be about 1, maybe 2 pounds a week. Anything more than that, you're at high risk of losing muscle tone rather than actual fat loss. The second red flag to look for with fad diets is if it eliminates full food groups in its entirety. So something like a low carb, no carb diet, that can be kind of dangerous, and there's literature to prove that too. We always want to make sure that we have all the food groups available for us. Of course, if there's medical reasoning, if there's an allergy, or if, for instance, you are unable to tolerate a food, that's a different story. But I'm talking about these fad diets that are looking to change your body composition. If it's saying avoid a food group, then that's a red flag. The next little bullet point you want to think about with fad diets is any rigid rules, especially if they require you to make any purchases. So there's some fad diets out there that, even though they don't even call themselves a diet, they call themselves a lifestyle, it's a scheme. And what they do is they tell you to follow these rules, and then they tell you that you need to purchase one of their products. And that product usually is some sort of meal replacement. And they end up being very expensive. So save yourself the money and save yourself the trouble and just ditch that idea entirely. So the next thing to look out for in any sort of marketed diet would be something that discourages or tells you to limit exercise. That is not going to be something that you want to adhere to. Exercise is a great thing to include into your lifestyle, and as long as you're doing this in a healthy way and your doctor approves of it for any sort of co-conditions, then exercise is definitely an important aspect into our lives, and a diet that's requiring you to avoid exercise is a major red flag. The next thing we want to look towards to see if any sort of program is offering this or making promises about weight loss, we want to see where their claims are coming from. If it's just based off of testimonials, then that's a huge red flag. If it's based off of research, then there's some validity to it. But you still want to question the research, and was the research valid? Was it validated? Was it in, scientific journals? And is this approved by medical professionals? Because the last thing we want to look for is it only endorsed by celebrities, or are there medical professionals endorsing this? So those are the 7 things to look for. If you ever have any questions, feel free to email me. I'm always happy to chat. And those are just those 7 things and 7 red flags to look for in a proposed diet. So just like we're starting off the new year, we want to start our day off right. So that means breakfast. Breakfast truly is the most important meal of the day. That is not just a cliche, it has truth behind it. When we start our day off right, we are leading ourselves up for success. That means eating a balanced breakfast that'll make us feel full, breaking that fast that we had going on overnight, and sending our brain energy for the day ahead. When we fuel ourselves in the morning, we not only make better choices later on in the day, but we eliminate that feeling of absolute starvation going into the later parts of the day. So that means at lunchtime, you're an appropriate amount of hungry. That means you're not so ravenous that you're looking for other things to include in your lunch, and you're actually able to stay on task throughout the morning. Sometimes when we skip breakfast, you might find that you're doing well throughout the day, but then later at night, that's when the cravings start to hit and you're looking to make up for those missing calories from breakfast. So if you struggle with any sort of binging or feeling out of control with food, maybe take a look at your morning. Are you having enough for breakfast? What we want to look for with breakfast is a balanced meal. I always like to think about the 3 components to a balanced meal. You want adequate protein, adequate grains or carbs, and then adequate fiber. So with protein, that's going to help you feel fuller for longer and also give your muscles the right amount of nutrients. Adequate carbohydrates are going to fuel our brain as well as our body. When we sleep, what happens is our body is still functioning, so it's still using energy. The way that our carbs are stored in our body allows ourselves to still stay alive overnight. But that storage form of carbohydrates becomes depleted. So we need to refuel our body with carbs in the morning, so then that way we have adequate amount to fuel our brain. Our brain relies on carbohydrates. That is the primary fuel source for our brain. So that's going to help us think clearly in the morning. Carbs come from many different sources. There are some carb sources that are a little bit more nutritious and some that might offer additional micronutrient benefits. So when I talk about carbs, that means all sorts of carbs. So we have breads, we have pastas, cereals, and then it also means starchy vegetables. So potatoes is a great source of carbohydrates as well. And then the last piece I mentioned was fiber. So that's going to be our fruits and vegetables. And I also like to encourage you to include lots of color in that fiber section. So fiber is great for the majority of people. There are some instances with GI issues where you might want to limit fiber, but that's when you ask your dietitian what's appropriate for you. So today's recipe is going to be a quick and easy breakfast option. And what's great about this recipe is that you can put it in the fridge or in the freezer to have it on hand for an easy morning. I'm all about making things easier in the morning because that is usually a time where we're running out of the door to get to work on time or maybe to get to your fitness class on time. So this recipe is a little egg white frittata with extra veggies or any veggies really to your preference. So we're gonna go ahead and get started, and we're gonna get a muffin tin all ready, and we're gonna preheat our oven to 400 degrees. Okay, so I went ahead and I lined my muffin tin with some olive oil. I personally used the spray olive oil so I could get a good even layer between the tins that I'm gonna use. And so today I'm only going to make 6 of these. You are welcome to make all 12. That's just going to change the amount of eggs you need to use. So today I'm going to be using some spinach, tomatoes, low-fat mozzarella, shredded mozzarella, onions, some minced garlic, and a little bit of basil seasoning. I'm also going to use the whole egg for my frittatas. So because of the vegetables that I'm choosing, I am starting with the spinach, and I'm just going to take a handful of the spinach and put it into each muffin tin. So of course, depending on how many muffins you're using, that's going to change the amount of vegetables you need. You can always do this to taste. And what's great about this is that if you're preparing this for your whole family and different members of your family have different taste preferences, you can, change this up to meet their needs. And so sometimes, for some people in my family that love meat, sometimes we'll do ham with it. Sometimes for a little treat, we'll add bacon. But for me, since I'm gonna make this for my breakfasts, I love a good caprese salad. That's my favorite. So I'm gonna make this kind of in that fashion. So we have the spinach all lined, and what's nice about spinach is that it is going to shrink when it bakes. So it is kind of full looking, but that is how I want it. I'm gonna add in my tomatoes now. And then after my tomatoes, I'll use my onions. I chose red onions just because I feel like they're a little bit more flavorful. I'm only gonna do, I think, half of these with tomatoes, just because I want to. Okay. Alrighty. So the tomatoes are in. Now I'm going to do the onions. This is also a great way to involve your family into the meal planning process. You can, especially with children, that's a great way to help them feel a little bit more autonomy over their food choices. So you can ask them to help you either by pouring the food into the muffin tins or helping you decide what ingredients will go into their muffin. This is something that can be stored in the fridge for a couple days, or if you want this to go a little bit longer ways, you can put it in the freezer. For people who are going on vacation frequently or planning a vacation, this is something that is a great option to prepare before leaving. So that way when you come home the morning after your vacation, you have a nice nutritious breakfast already cooked, and it takes a little limited amount of prep ahead of time. Oh, I forgot to put onions in this one, so add that in. Okay. So the next part is adding the eggs. I'm gonna add the cheese in last. So I'm gonna take my mixing bowl and add in 6 eggs because I'm making 6 muffins. So it's just 1 egg per muffin. If you do not like the yolk of the egg and you want just egg whites, you might need a few more eggs. The yolk of the egg is actually where a lot of the nutrients are housed in the egg. And so it used to be thought that cholesterol in food could lead to an increase in your serum blood cholesterol. But all the data that's available now proves that there's no correlation between that. So that is why the yolk of the egg used to be thought of as something that needed to be avoided. But that is not true anymore, and we actually want you to include the yolk of the egg for nutrition purposes. Now, if you don't like eggs, or if you're newer to liking eggs, trying the egg yolk is a great way to start introducing eggs into your diet. I still always encourage individuals to add variety into their diet. So even though eggs are a great part of a healthy diet, we don't want to have eggs every single day. So, switching things up will help you get more nutrients in that way. Eggs are a great source of protein though. So including eggs in the morning can help you get your protein in to start the day off right. So I have 5 eggs right here. Now we just need one last one. And I'm gonna go ahead and wash my hands before I start mixing. Okay, so I washed my hands, and now I'm gonna add in some minced garlic. And I'm gonna add this to the eggs, so then that way it just mixes evenly between my 6 different frittatas. And I'm also going to add in some dried basil. I didn't have any fresh basil on hand, so I'm just gonna use the dried one, and it'll still give me that basil flavor that I'm looking for. Okay, now that everything's in there, I'm gonna mix the mixture up together so that it's all combined. So just a quick little whisk. Okay, it is all evenly mixed, and I'm just gonna pour this in to I'm just gonna pour this into my muffin tins. Okay, I'm all set with that, and then I add my cheese on top, and then I will put it in the oven for it to bake. All right, so now my eggs have been in the oven for about 20 minutes, and I'm letting them cool right now, and then once they're all cool, I'll be able to put them in freezer safe bags and put them in the freezer so I can enjoy for a quick, easy, on-the-go breakfast.